Hey guys, it's Joel. Thanks for tuning in. So I haven't had a chance so far to write the script for my next video. I'm talking a little bit about depression and how it affects me. So if you're interested in seeing that, make sure to subscribe. Today's kind of a reaction to a video. I had someone comment on one of my videos about capitalism and versus crony capitalism, which I really appreciate. It's nice to know that somebody's watching these videos because they do take a while to make. Anyway, the comment goes, this person said, "You know nothing about the history of primitive accumulation if you think capitalism is not coercive. Please educate yourself." So yeah, we're gonna click on that link and see what the video is and give our reaction to it. Here we go. To the Mel Brooks show. Oh, Richard Wolff.
I want to get back to that in a second.
Richard
Can you
Wolff.
define primitive accumulation? I do want.
This is funny. These people that they're using through capitalism, they're getting rich and or at least making a living while they bash capitalism. If you're selling your books and your speeches, that's capitalism at work. Anyway, let's see.
Yes.
One strong Marxist term definition:
Right.
primitive accumulation.
Well, the term owes its origin to Marx. That's Karl Marx. It's in the first volume of Capital, towards the end.
Ooh, Karl Marx. Yeah, Marxism. It's never worked anywhere in history, but yet people keep on promoting it. I'll link a link to a video below talking a little bit about Karl Marx, so you guys can check that out if you want. Let's continue.
Section 8 of that book. And what
You hear that, David?
Marx's point.
Take pointers.
Marx's point in that section is to say there's the accumulation of capital happens in two different ways. Mm-hmm. One way is built into capitalism. It's the capitalist getting as much profit as he can and plowing it back into the business. That's capitalist accumulation. But capital also has to accumulate in a sense before we have capitalism to kind of get the ball rolling, to get you have to have on the one hand a bunch of people who have some wealth in their hands and another bunch of people who have nothing, because then a deal will be struck. Those who have nothing are in danger of dying because they have nothing. Those who have a lot say to themselves, wait a minute, I have a lot, but maybe I can get the one who's scared to die to work for me, producing a profit for me. That way he survives because I pay him wages and my wealth goes up, which is what I want. How did you get things set up that way? How did you have a situation where a large number of people were desperate, had nowhere to turn, and a relatively small number of people had a big pot of money in their hands with which to hire them?
So wait a minute. So then people just out of nowhere, some were born and boom, a big pile of wealth, just appeared next to them, and some people didn't. This is one of the things that bothers me, is people make up things so they can make up terms for them. So I think I understand what primitive capitalism is now. That doesn't work though. How did those people get wealth to begin with? You can't just say, oh, well, you had before capitalism, you had some people who had a bunch of stuff and some people who were dying because they had nothing. No. Were they just born with that wealth? I mean, and if you say, yeah, to rich families, well, were their families just born to it? I mean, it had to come about somehow, right? Which is capitalism. You're just making stuff up to sell books and to sell speeches and to make money. And the worst part of it is that some people believe it and they don't ask questions. It's, oh yes, that sounds very intellectual. Give me a break. Anyway, let's go on.
The enclosure of the commons?
Right. The process of that happening before capitalism is called primitive accumulation. And the example Marx gives is England in the 16th, 17th, 18th centuries, where you had peasantry, the famous English yeoman peasant, self-employed little peasants, who survived partly out of their little land and their animals, but partly out of the very crucial...
Self-employed little peasants. In other words, small business owners. So Richard Wolff sees small business owners as peasants. Interesting.
Hunting, for getting wood. And there were these shared resources. And at a certain point, the landlord class took the meadows, took the woods, shut them, fenced them, literally fenced them, called the enclosure movement, because they literally enclosed the formerly common areas, denied the peasants couldn't survive because they needed that land to graze, they needed the wood, they needed the hunting. So the peasants then leave the countryside.
Okay, that's not capitalism. That's not capitalism, that's theft. That's people stealing by force that which belongs to everyone, right? That's not capitalism or primitive capitalism.
Because they're dying there, they can't survive, and go into the cities. When they arrive in the cities, they have nothing. And they meet people who have become quite wealthy by enclosing the commons and producing stuff there. So, and then the New Deal is struck. It isn't a serf and a lord, because in a sense the serfs have run away. It's now the merchant in the city who has been selling lovely things to these landlords that are enclosing, has collected wealth in his hands and says, okay, I'm going to give you desperados that have come off the land, the peasants, a job. You're going to work for me, and you're going to produce more for me than I give you to survive. But you don't care because you're going to survive. I like this because I'm going to get the profit, and then capital accumulation in capitalism is launched, but it had to have that primitive pre-capitalist accumulation to get started.
That's just, how does someone become a merchant or, these land owners that took it by force? I mean, that's not capitalism, like I said. But when you have merchants and you have people who work for them, if you have people that work for you, and this is why capitalism is so great, that person that works for you can save up his or her money, and eventually they can invest in wares to resell and start, building their capital, their, money. And then they can become a merchant or a business owner and grow and grow and grow. Under socialism or communism, there's no such thing. You're born and this is what you do and this is what you're going to get paid. And if you don't like it, you die or you in prison. That sounds much better than capitalism.
So when we talk, I just want to link it, when we've been talking about the First Nations issues like David articulates for us so well as an example, or a lot of ecological things, I would like to at least theoretically think we're talking about commons. We haven't figured out a way to bottle oxygen yet and sell it to those who have, bitcoins or whatever.
Okay. Now, there was this story, I can't remember where. If I can find it, I'll link it down below. If not, you'll have to take my word for it. or do your own investigating or research. I think it was in Argentina. I don't know what country that the company was from, so I won't, I think it was the US. But anyway, they wanted to sell the people water. So they made it illegal through the government to collect rainwater. They talked about not being able to bottle oxygen, which they do, by the way. But anyway, so the people revolted, obviously, because water is life. And, the police came out and tried to, squash the revolt. But after 2 weeks of riots and people dying, the police said, you know what? And I think they obviously saw that this was not right. They said, you know what, we're not going to do this anymore. So what happened is the people took those, crooked bureaucrats out of office, and they kicked that company out of the country. The only reason that was able to happen was because of crony capitalism, because crooked bureaucrats or politicians were in the pocket of a company, and they decided they were going to steal something from the people to make money. That's not capitalism, folks.
We're talking about commons enclosures. It's less dramatic, obviously, in terms of the human stakes, but this is a major story in the internet. If you look at someone like Richard Stallman from the Free Software Foundation, he'll say that the architecture of the internet, the initial basis of it, is a open commons.
Right.
And everything from Microsoft and so on to Apple is a enclosure of hard and software of what was initially supposed to be
Right.
open systems.
Look, the land was supposed to be
Right.
open. You
Right.
know, I mean, almost everything. Even you take a simple plebeian thing, we need to be able to send letters to one another. We have to write a letter, send a bill, send a thank you, send money. We need a system that moves things from wherever I am to wherever you are. We call that the post office. It is a shared resource everybody makes use of until you permit it to be privately enclosed. When you have a FedEx or a UPS, they basically bite off the profitable parts of this business, leaving the post office with what has to be done.
But they still run.
Okay, and he says we need to be able to send letters and send this and that. Yeah, and what happened? Somebody said, okay, people want to send letters, they want to send messages. I'll transfer it, I'll take it, I'll take it from here to there and charge you a certain amount of money. When did that become a need, a human right, to be able to send a letter or a package? That's where people get confused. You have the right to live. You have the right to live freely. You don't have the right to send a letter and have it be delivered by someone. No, you have the right to walk it there yourself if you want. But if somebody offers that service, then yeah, they're going to ask you to pay them for their time, for their money, for their effort. To say that, oh, it belongs to the people, no, it doesn't. When the government took it over, yeah, now it belongs to the people. And they say they bite off, so all that's left for the post office is the letters. I'm assuming he's talking about. The post office sends packages. They have, priority shipping and everything that UPS and FedEx has, basically. Just a lot more expensive, a lot slower, and a lot more unreliable. From experience. I sell stuff online. I ship every day.
Off of the infrastructure of the post office,
Absolutely.
which is the other great story of the commons.
And then
right?
when you've taken away the profitable
Right.
part of the post office, and you do the numbers, and gee, the post office is not running on a profit. Yeah, that's no mystery, you idiot. That's because the whole thing was done that way. We took away
It's not profitable. Not because it was meant to not be profitable. It's not profitable because of all the bureaucracy, because of the mismanagement. That's why it's not profitable. Not because all they do is send letters. Because they don't just send letters.
UPS does what's profitable. FedEx and all the other, they do what's profitable. They don't touch what isn't profitable. The little post office in every village so that we're tied together as a nation, that's the job of the post office. The FedEx doesn't have a pack.
Another thing, sorry. The federal government said, okay, everybody should have the right to send a letter or whatever. So if a certain number of people decide to go live off in the mountains, in the boonies somewhere, the rest of the public has to pay through taxes, through the government, for someone to set up a post office so that they can send stuff. No, if you want to live way out there, then you figure out how you're going to send letters and packages back to society, to civilization.
A store there. It doesn't have people on the payroll. So it's like the fakery with the railroads. Another shared resource. Everybody needs it. So what do? It's always sort of this wonderful mentality. In order for the railroads to make money, to be profitable, which is what they tried to do, they jacked up the price. That destroyed the farmer who couldn't afford to ship his wheat or his animals on this high-priced thing.
Okay, so why was there only one railway? Why weren't other capitalists able to set up their own railways? Because of government. Because the first person that did it said, hey, government, I don't want this competition. How about I give you some money and we keep these people from building more railways because of the environment or whatever. That's crony capitalism again.
So all the other capitalists get together and say, we can't have this. We're all being wiped out. We're all being stolen from by the railroads because we have no other way to move our stuff, and they can charge whatever they want. So we don't want that anymore. We want to nationalize the railroad, Amtrak. Okay, so the whole logic is you're going to help every other capitalist by bringing down the price of railroad transport. which
Another way to bring down the price of railroad transport is by offering choices, more options, more railways.
they do. And then you have the right wing, I'm sorry, but there's no nice way to say this.
Please don't be
idiot,
nice. Yeah.
idiot,
We're the idiots. Okay.
That is so
who doesn't
mild
know
for
the
this show.
history, who says, see,
We're
look,
terrible.
you see, when the government takes it over, it's not profitable. You moron, what are you doing? You don't understand it. I mean, it's not because the government took it over that it's unprofitable. It's because the whole point of this exercise was that the rest of the capitalists wanted to become profitable by having this subsidized train service. And you really, you're beyond words. You created the railroads, put them under government control to bring down the price, which
Price fixing. It's never worked.
of course would kill their profits. And the corresponding profit went up for everybody who used the railroad. But the right winger wants to make an ideological case and says, see, the public enterprise is running at a loss. In many cases, in many countries, that's why there is a public
See, this is what happens. The government takes over a business and an enterprise, and then because of the bureaucracy and because of the rules and the laws, then all of a sudden they start losing money. And then people like Richard Wolff here says, oh, because that's the way it was supposed to be. No, it wasn't supposed to be that way. The best and the most efficient way to do things is to have the private sector and capitalists figure out ways to move stuff, to do it faster and cheaper through competition. And when the government steps in and keeps that competition from happening, that's crony capitalism. And that's why you get, what we have with the post office or the railway.
enterprise, because it has to run at a loss, because that loss subsidizes the profitability of the private sector. So it's not a proof
That's crony capitalism.
that private is profitable. Only you see the blindness of
I
this
do.
is just, it's wild.
It is why. Well, it's a form. I like the phrase cognitive capture.
Capitalism here. We need to support this channel somehow. I don't want to just ask for your donations. So I decided to set up this clothing company, Consequential Gear. This one here is a hoodie. It says, beware of human nature, consequentialgear.store or .com. They'll both lead you to the same place. Thanks, guys. Have a great day. Talk to you soon.